So we don't want to lose those people. And the ET challenge was to get schools all across Virginia to try to inspire new curricula, new projects, new things. And ultimately, we want to have a platform to study all this so that we can measure what works, which ties me into the president's agenda, the $5 billion Race to the Top program, which we hope will be a platform for identifying what works in our educational system and to ensure the rapid deployment of best practices so we close the gaps you're talking about. You don't need a master's and PhD or whatever in physics in order to get the basics in to be a technician who can understand advanced manufacturing. But we do want to get you early so that you can expose yourself to that capacity and be successful in this economy. And as we upskill our workforce, we'll see a resurgence in our long-term economic growth. Sorry for that long-winded one on that, but it's a passion of mine. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chopra, as you know, in the history, there's a rise and fall of all civilizations. We now seem to be at the apex of technology and economics. How long do you think we'll be there, and who do you think will displace us?
Well, we have the capacity to continuously improve our performance because what we do well is bring ideas to life. Isn't that the tagline of one of our companies? What this country does very, very well is we build an ecosystem and a culture of entrepreneurship. I may say that our educational attainment rate is lacking, and that is a component. But when you want to assemble the iPod, you take the parts from all over the world and you put them together in the iPod. It's Silicon Valley that attracts the lion's share of the margin in that product. I'm getting a little bit technical, but the devices might be the components might be manufactured, the systems engineering might be here and there, but it's our country that has the DNA that brings them together into a product that adds value. It's what my mentor says is ideas meeting relevance. We do that very well. The reason I have high hopes for our country is we're starting to get it amongst our companies that are globally competitive. What you're starting to see, now, first phase was obviously a challenge in our country, which is that there were jobs moved overseas, and we obviously are grappling with this economic reality. Very difficult question. But what we're starting to see is the following. Companies are now thinking about building products and services in a global market, designed for the global market, that could be brought back to this country to add even more value. What does it mean that while we're struggling in the auto industry, that less than 3 months after the Mumbai terrorist attacks, the CEO of Tata announced the world's cheapest car in the exact lobby where they had been attacked during that horrific exchange? Our globally competitive companies are starting to figure out that they can build world-class defibrillators at low cost in Asia, designed with all the criteria and challenges of that market, and can bring that learning back here to have a whole new platform for growth. So I see tremendous opportunity as we look to take our learnings from around the world and to find ways to marry them up, A and B coming together. I'll make one down the street from where Mario had set up his original kind of entrepreneurship center. We have a $500 million research center that the Howard Hughes folks put up to focus on some real difficult problems. Why did they locate it where they did? 7 miles north of Dulles Airport, which is an international. They want to bring the world's best minds to this country, put them into a really cool location, bring physicists, psychologists, mathematicians, and poets together to say, how can you assemble something that didn't exist before? That's what's in our DNA, and that's what gives me great hope that we're actually on a new growth curve if we get this right.
Mr. Chopra, Mike Anderson from University Hospitals. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Back to your Big Mac and fries example, and I hope your wife's not listening to this part of the podcast, too. Healthcare reform is here. The goals are the right ones. Follow patients longitudinally, use the electronic health record, decrease costs and improve care. But your example of the Big Mac and fries, how can we as healthcare organizations and you and the federal government give more power to patients to take ownership for their own health?
I think this is the real secret sauce in the debate. Oh, that's wrong. I didn't mean that. Woohoo! You like that? Putting it another way. Our public policy has historically thought of technology as a noun. What President Obama has challenged us to do is to think of technology as a verb. It's not because we want the box on the desk in the doctor's office that we do this. It's because we want the information that is gathered in that format or any other format, like we were describing earlier, that gentleman asked about digital divide, to deliver a valuable outcome. This is the marriage of leadership with the platform. So in Virginia, where we came from, we have an outcomes-based management system that is public-private partnership called the Council on Virginia's Future. Don't tell us our healthcare system is measured by dollars spent per whatever. Tell us what the obesity rate is in our country, in the Commonwealth. Tell us what our infant mortality rate is. When you set the outcome goal, which is to, in our case in Virginia, we're going to focus on infant mortality. Now you unleash, that's the relevance. Now you unleash the power of ideas on the platform. I don't really expect the hospital administration to really think about this. That's not, no offense, that's just not what you wake up in the morning and go to bed at night doing. You have to run a very efficient operation. There are a lot of folks in this room who have creative minds that represent the brand industry, or someone who's got the left brain, right brain stuff figured out. They'll hear the call for infant mortality reduction. You'll make them aware, Dr. Harris will, that this is the data we can make available. Can anybody mash up the data with other valuable thoughts to advance the reduction goals that we're setting? And you'll come up with strategies we'd never even heard of. You wouldn't think of them as health IT or whatever. They're not going to be in a clean little noun. But I want us to have that culture of rapid-fire innovation on the outcomes goals. That's what the president's asking us to do. That's what we must do. That's why we're trying to say, let's get the platform ready. I'll make this final comment on this. It troubles me that in every retailer in America, they have enough data that if the Browns lost on Sunday, it's raining on Monday, and you're hanging with the guys thinking about going to a happy hour, they know exactly what promotion to run to get you to buy a plasma TV that afternoon. That's the kind of analytical power we have in the nation's retailing sector. Or to upsell me the Oreo from the basic thing when I buy my milk at the same time. Think of that in a healthcare context. Whether it be on what I eat, the dietary side, or what we do in terms of choosing an intervention, whether surgery or a stent may be the better alternative. We don't have that kind of infrastructure to study what works globally or nationally. That's part of what we're trying to figure out, and that's why we're pushing so hard on getting us to wire up the nation's healthcare system, as an example. Same is true for education. By the way, any of you that are educators in the room, tell me this. Do we test the marginal value of that little app? If this thing actually delivered outcomes, would we know it? Do any of our databases track the content that we put in front of our kids? We could tell you if the teacher's considered good or bad. We have a lot of public policy attention on that issue. But what about the content that we actually put in front of the kids? If we assemble these 5 or 6 different chapters and present them in a certain format, the data in retailing compared to things that are relevant to policy, it's sad, and we are going to fix it. We have to.